The best sports podcast there is.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson, all the way from Detroit to Chicago. And today we're going all the way down to Texas with our special guest, Scott Sereboff, entrepreneur specializing in technology with artificial intelligence, security, marketing. Got over 5 startup companies involved in technology that all broke into the U.S. market from across the seas. So, Scott, man, I'm so happy to have you here. It's truly a pleasure to have you here with me today, man. How's it going?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it, Manny. Very much.
And man, I'm excited too. I got a bunch of questions for you. But before I jump into all the questions, first things first, I got to punch the ticket question. This is the ticket question. This is the question to make sure the interview can continue on and go on as it does. So my first question is here. A lot of people love sports betting. That's like the number one popular thing when it comes to sports outside of actually watching the event. Now, can artificial intelligence predict the outcome of sports bets or what? Is that possible?
Define predict.
Like, all right, say March Madness is on. Say, this is crazy, because I've been recently saying you can't predict March Madness.
Yeah, no, never can.
But so to give an example, like, okay, I see some betting odds where I'm like, all right, I think I'm going to go with, let's say, Kansas State to win it all. Like, if I see the odds there and I'm like, can AI predict that Kansas State is going to win it all? Or if it does, is it accurate?
Maybe. So look, nobody can predict anything.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
You cannot predict how does AI know if, Texas played Xavier yesterday, right?
Yep.
And Texas's leading player hurt his ankle.
Yeah.
AI cannot predict that a person is going to roll their ankle and come out of the game, which obviously affects the game, right?
So true.
Now, I can rabbit hole if you want and say, well, if I look at his injury history from the time he was 2 until now, maybe, but let's take that aside. All AI is going to do is do what the bookies in Vegas do now, is look at, you tell AI every March Madness, score set and every Kansas State score set, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's going to give you the same thing as a human, maybe more accurate. But everything in AI is a percentage.
Okay.
Meaning, even so, if I recognize a face, it's not, that's Manny. There's a 99% chance. That's Manny. It's never 100%. It can't be.
Right.
It's likewise. Kansas State, 89.27% chance to win, according to Chat GPT betting. It's still just a percentage. Will it be more accurate than, you're too young to know Vince the Greek or Brett Musburger, who's out now in, no, yes. It just, data in, data out. So how much can you tell me about their history, Kansas State's history at the Final Four?
Okay.
How far back can I go? And then I'll give you a number.
Okay, all right. I think I got you now. So that makes a little more sense than actually like being able to predict. It's just going to give you that chance of the possible outcome. But it's not saying
Your prediction might be better. Your prediction might be slightly better.
Right. It'll help align it to like your prediction of what you were previously thinking. So, okay, that makes a lot more sense. I needed that explanation because, I hear a lot of myths, and it's a lot of myths out there where people are like, we have the complete prediction, or our technology can predict the outcome of these games, or we can give you the best parlay that you can ever put together because of our technology here. And, I kind of question those things. I'm a firm believer of you should just question everything. So when I see stuff like that, I'm just automatically like, I don't believe it.
Well, your parents sound like they're raised like I did. If it's too good to be true, or if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, probably a duck. We all see those advertisements.
Yeah.
And everyone is better than the next one. Our technology is better than the blah, 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 blah. Okay. Well, at some point, it's all the same.
Okay.
It's all the same. Think about it. How do I tell you the outcome of virtually anything that's got randomity built into it?
And explain randomity.
Okay. I get out of bed this morning. There's 100% chance I'm going to get out of bed, except if I break my leg getting out of bed, then I fall back into bed. Random happenstance.
Okay.
You can't predict for randomity, that the rolled ankle in the sport.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
The Joe Theismann breaking his leg and in a football game, or when the Giants won the Super Bowl a million years ago when Phil Simms got hurt, this kid Jeff Hostetler came in, and you can't predict randomity.
Right. Okay.
Math isn't random. Math is not right. 1 + 1 is always 2. So
always,
if I'm doing something that has an algorithm, a mathematical formula in it, it's going to always come out with the same answer. But how do you introduce random? That's where that percentage comes in. The more randomity you have, the less sure you can be of the outcome.
Right. Okay. No, that makes sense. So here's a question too, and kind of just to feed off of what you were mentioning about randomity. So one of the things that is like the complete, obviously, the worst part in sports is injuries. And obviously no one can really predict when an injury is going to happen. But do you ever feel like, with the advanced statistics and advanced fitness stats and the fitness health and all of that stuff that we have to track an athlete's body, track how high they can jump, how fast they can run, how hard they can throw, how hard they swing, whatever the case is, do you ever feel like it will be technology that can predict the strength in bones or cartilage in terms of preventing that random act of injury? Do you think that'll ever come along and be able to enter the sports world?
Yes.
Okay. Let's hear it.
So think about it this way, right? So how many times I'm from Dallas, right? Say what you want about his quarterbacking or brain, but Dak Prescott.
Dak.
So he's been injured a lot.
Yes.
And you know how those of us who watch sports, we have that, he's got the injury bug or he's injury prone.
Yep.
What does that mean? What does that mean? To us, it means you're very likely or more likely to get injured. But what do we base that on? So if I was designing technology to help predict injuries in athletes, I would go back as far as I could, and I'd put everything you just said into a model: nutrition, exercise, injury history, workout routines, etc. Right?
Right.
And you build that up. Then you take all that information and you let's say we do it for 1,000 athletes, right? Everyone in the NBA. How many players are in the NBA? Everyone in the NBA.
A lot of them, because a lot of them don't even get recognition. So let's just use 500. It's okay, I know 500. It's probably more than 500, but let's just use it. Okay, it's probably less actually. But
yeah, it's 30 what?
30 teams with 12 people. It's definitely less.
Yeah, so call it 500. People you're bringing in and out from the D League, whatever.
Yeah, all right, cool.
Then I'm going to look at all 500 of those people, and I'm going to compare them. And I'm going to look for common variables. For example, the 8 guys that worked out with this one strength trainer don't get injured. So they are less likely to get injured than those 9 guys who worked out on their own, kind of thing. Right?
Right. Okay.
It's still going to be a number, but you're into Moneyball territory here. You're talking about a pure statistic where I say Manny gets plugged in, and compared to this control, we feel like his chance of getting injured at any moment is 90%, or to give you a better benefit of the doubt, 9%, right?
Right.
He's unlikely to get injured.
Right, okay.
Right? How many times do we see players in free agency of every sport? Oh, we want to sign so-and-so. Well, he gets injured a lot.
They get injured way too often. Yep.
Right? Now, in football, and pro or college doesn't matter, you'll also enter in things like the size of the player. Russell Wilson is small. He's going to get hurt more because he's smaller.
Right. So those factors have a huge impact on the data and in terms of he's injury prone and stuff. Because I have noticed that too, actually. Like, some guys, and it happens a lot with the taller athletes, like football, it's the big linemen because they're maybe like 6'5", they're weighing almost 300 pounds, some of them. And with basketball, it's the centers because they're 7 foot tall and they weigh a certain amount. So it's a lot more difficult for them to jump and bounce when there's not as much there. So all of that definitely has like an impact on the health and being able to predict that how often he'll get injured and if he's truly injury prone, because that's really a bogus term that we use that as fans. Honestly,
it is.
Yeah, because it's something that's uncontrollable, and right. I feel like in the sports world, way too often we hold people we hold them accountable for something they can't control. So we say, like, as an example, you mentioned Dak Prescott. I'm not really a fan of the Cowboys. We'll use him as an example. But, like, you know, Dak Prescott. People would say, well, Dak isn't a great quarterback because he's injury prone. And it's like, I feel like that's bogus to take away from the skill set that he has as a quarterback. Although I don't personally think he's the best quarterback out there, but it's bogus to take away from his skill set because he gets hurt often. And, you know, that's not really a cool thing to me. So anything you want to add to that?
Well, look, I mean, you're right. And the largest reason I would agree with you is because is he injury prone, or does he get injured a lot because the line is crappy? Is he injury prone, or does he run out of the pocket too much and get walloped as he goes down the field? There's so
many factors.
Yeah. And if you look across the league, NFL, NBA, especially NBA, and believe it or not, I don't know if you're ever a soccer fan. I grew up playing soccer as well. English Premier League. I mean, they all have these, the heart straps and this and that, and they monitor sleep and nutrition and all that. But most of that is to try to maximize the player's stamina and health,
right? As
opposed to looking at it to say, "Ooh, that guy might get injured. We shouldn't sign him or whatever." So.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's like tracking the. Now. Here's the thing too. Is it helpful for like substitution and stuff? Is that a factor, or do you know that for sure if they use it for like substitution and stuff? Like, all right, this guy heart rate is at 1 million right now. Like, we need to give him a break. A break because I feel like that could be useful too. You know.
Interestingly enough, there are teams that use tech like that. Where you can monitor a player's health in real time. So as the, you know, your 32-year-old center forward is running up and down the pitch,
right?
You notice that, you know, his I mean, hell, if you do it correctly, his blood oxygen is not saturating well, and he's winded, and so you could pull him out. I don't think that's something you see a lot of.
Right.
But the technology already exists for that.
Oh wow, yeah, that's cool. I've noticed too, man, and like I watch a lot of NBA. I watch a lot of basketball, obviously football, baseball, and stuff as well. But one of the things I noticed too is like the increased advancement of statistics over the course of the years. Like within this last 5 years, the increase of statistics, and you add sports betting onto that, and now statistics get even crazier because they look into the tiniest details of what someone is doing. And I look at all of that, and I think sometimes it hinders sports because it's not so much. You're not so much worried about the eye test of what this player's production is, because a lot of people may not watch the game, but they'll just look at their phone and see, oh, this guy had 6 strikeouts, like, or this guy had 4 tackles, he didn't do much, or this guy missed 7 shots in a game and only had 6 points, he didn't do much. When in reality, he may have had the most important 6 points in the game, but because a person didn't watch it, they don't really know. And then it turns to the aspect of coaching and stuff. I see a lot of coaching. Well, I don't personally see it, but I question it sometimes because some of the coaching that I witness is just, it's questionable. And I look at it and I see like, well, I wonder if they're using the probabilities from the different stats and the sources that they have to predict the certain plays they're going to run, predict the certain game plans they're going to run as well, because I know that has a lot to do with it. If stats are telling you, hey, this team is a bad defensive team in a paint, so you're now trying to attack the paint, but it's not working. So it's like when AI is wrong or when statistics is wrong, when you put it to test, how is it a result to bounce back from that? Or how can you correct that in the moment, if that even makes sense? I hope it does.
So it's interesting. You said, you're talking about data. Then you said eye test. And my first reaction was, oh, the eye test. But you're right. So let's separate.
Okay.
First of all, you have data. You have data.
Got it.
Forget AI for a second. Data is a spreadsheet. It's you and I looking at it. It's the two of us figuring out who to foul in an NBA final. Who do you pick? The guy with the worst free throw percentage.
Got you. Yeah.
Right? So that's just data. Now, you could tell an AI to do it, but it would be faster, but you'd get the same number potentially. Because it's just, look, how many times did they go to the line? How many they make? How many they miss? Is not a real hard math problem. So you say, okay. Now, The eye test comes in. Here's a question back to you, which is, what the hell happened to LeBron James in the finals against the Mavericks in 06? Right? Now, could anyone have predicted that he would disappear in that finals? The answer is probably no. How do you program for that? There's no data that can tell you.
I don't think a person can. I don't, and that's probably exactly your point, right? Is that it's impossible to do so. Yeah.
Now, I don't know everything about anything really, but maybe there is something out there I'm not aware of. But here's the deal: what does the eye test tell you? And I think your sentence a few minutes ago was perfect. 6 points might be the 2 3-pointers that broke 2 runs that could have turned the tide of the game.
Literally.
Or you have one guy. Who's the classic example in basketball? You have the
Robert Horry.
Robert Horry.
Robert Horry.
The greatest. Well, no. You're right. The greatest example of he's only has a few points, but every time the guy took a shot
was the most important shot.
Big Shot Bob was his nickname for a reason.
Literally.
You have the Horace Grants of the world, the Dennis Rodmans of the world.
Yep.
A little too strong on the rebound side, but how many times have you seen games turned where you look at the box score and you're like, well, that guy didn't do anything. You didn't watch a game.
Literally.
He was disruptive. He was all over the court. He was hustling. He was defensive.
Energy.
Right. And a coach and his assistants can see, or her assistants can see only with the eye test.
Right.
Right now, I think it is probably beyond the current ability of AI to do an eye test. You have to give. How do you do momentum?
Now, is that in the works? Is that something that like we have to worry about? Because I think about this, and I got a curveball coming for you in just a second. So is that something like that may possibly be able to be in the works when it comes to, let me just throw you the curveball now. When it comes to humanoids, like, I know that, like I said, it's a curveball, but like, I genuinely, I am infatuated with humanoid robots. Like it's insane to me that development is like around the corner when we look at technology in everyday life. And maybe it's further out for some people when I say around the corner, but it's definitely on the way. And is that something that's like on the way? How soon, I guess, is my estimate. Like, and I'm just curious to hear your thoughts about it, because I know it's coming, but I just want to know, like, how soon can we expect these like humanoid robots to be able to give an eye test on an athlete?
So you just asked about something that we in the business call generative AI. Generative AI is, look, all it is, make a computer like a person. That's it. So instead of having to constantly teach the system with data, all of a sudden the system is learning, just like a baby. And that's a great way to think of AI. If you and I write an AI program to do anything that we're talking about right now, it starts out like a newborn. It doesn't know a damn thing.
So we teach it.
We teach it.
We teach it. Now, what if we teach it the wrong information and we don't know? Like, say we because I'm sure this happens. I'm sure, I know it does. Just like from everyone that's trying to develop AI, I'm sure there's someone out there that's teaching the AI the wrong type of stuff or the incorrect information. That just develops onto the AI, and then it continues to process the wrong information, right?
And here's the problem. An AI is only going to learn what it's taught. So if we teach it that if we teach it something racist, you have a racist AI.
That's what it is then. Wow.
So right, and no, this is not generative, although it kind of is. You have to start by having your data into your AI be as neutral as possible.
Right. Okay.
I don't care if it's white or black or man or woman or whatever. Here's just a flat data.
Right.
I shouldn't be able to tell.
Right.
So look, to reverse this for a second, the majority of NBA basketball players happen to be African American.
Yep. That is a fact.
Does that mean if we taught an AI about basketball, it would automatically assume that Luka Doncic was bad?
No, that would be terrible, because Luka is clearly one of the best in the NBA right now.
But there's the problem. If you don't tell the AI that when it sees a white person, it's not an anomaly. It's not, oh, that never happens, therefore it's not good. Think about it. then it's not going to know, and it's going to look at Luka and say, "Oh yeah, don't pick him."
Right. When really you're missing out on a gem.
Damn straight.
Damn.
If you don't teach an AI that there are red apples, and it sees a red apple, even though there's a green apple right next to it, and they look pretty much the same, it has no idea the red thing's an apple. You have to teach it everything.
Wow.
That's why so what we're talking about right now is so complicated. How do you and I agree on momentum or the eye test?
Right.
So now you're like, it's got to be this way. No, man, it's got to be that way.
Yeah, so we're going back and forth trying to figure out what we're going to teach this AI based on what I think is a good eye test and based on what you think is a good eye test, based on what this other person thinks is a good eye test, when in reality, it's like the AI is only going to know what we choose to tell it is a good eye test. Other than that, it will never be able to pick it up as that's a good basketball player or he's good at this particular thing until we say, hey, AI, or I don't know how it's done, but this is what a good basketball player looks like. This is what a good shooter looks like. And then from there, that's when wow. Okay.
That's exactly right. I mean, the reason why we keep hearing so much about Chat GPT and all this, facial recognition and cars is because the mathematics effectively always get you to 1 + 1. Once you recognize a human, then even though I'm simplifying it tremendously, but once you know what a human is, you're pretty good at knowing what other humans are.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, so there's no doubt about as long as black, white, Asian, blah, blah, blah. But anything where you get speculation, randomity, there's no math for it.
Right.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, there is, but I haven't heard about people translating chaos theory math into AIs just yet. But I'm waiting for you to ask things like the use of robotic strike zones.
Yeah. That's actually one of the things I am curious about too, because there's a lot of different technology aspects in training. Obviously, strike zones is one of the things they can set, and then it like stays consistent. So what are your thoughts about that, as a matter of fact?
Well, very interesting. I love this part of it. So, how do you feel about an umpire, a human umpire? You watch a tremendous amount of sports.
I think it's sided. I think it's always sided, and every umpire is different. I've had an umpire on here, and they've told me that their calls are different from what someone else may believe is the right call. So I think it's always different depending on the umpire. The same way in basketball.
What about in the game? When an umpire's strike zone starts one way in the first inning, is different in the seventh inning.
Yeah, see, I just think it's not consistent. I think it's inconsistent. And with a lot of different umpires, they bring different sizes of the strike zone. Even though in the rules it tells you it's from here to here or from shoulder to hip or whatever it says in the rules particularly. But I think every umpire has their own type of idea of, no, this is where the strike zone is, although it actually says it.
And if you had the chance, what did the umpires say about getting rid of umpires in favor of actual computerized strike zones?
Absolutely not. I don't think they would want that at all.
Do you want it?
I would love it. I would love it because it brings the consistency. The same way it would bring consistency in like NFL. I've said this many times. I'm like, when they try and see if it was a first down, they go out there with the chains. You watch it, you see some refs move the ball closer, you see them move it. Like, come on now. Like, we know at this point, all of it can be tracked. Why not just track the amount of yardage that the ball went? And I think it would just bring a certain consistency that the humans would not have.
And I love it because data is that consistency. And so in the English Premier League, they started it in the Championship League and they brought it up, but they have goal track.
Okay.
It's a chip inside of the ball.
It's that
There's
easy.
a sensor right at the goal line. They don't do it on the sidelines for some weird reason. Maybe it's price, but the goal line.
Right.
In professional soccer, if any part of the ball crosses the goal line, it's a
goal. Obviously. Yep.
Well, it may be half the ball, but it doesn't matter. It's the same point.
Right.
Instead of having a ref judge it, they show it up on a screen. You see this superimposed line, and the ball goes, oh, goal. Or, oh, not a goal.
And it's that simple.
There's no question.
It's that simple. And that's the thing. That's the type of consistency that I feel like it can bring. But the thing that I question is why? Why not do that? Why not incorporate that type of technology, incorporate that type of consistency into the game? Like,
well, because the old school guys, forget the fact the umpires don't want to lose their jobs and all that. But the old school guys want, I'm sure you still are an athlete. But remember how our coaches always told us the ref is part of the field. Mm-hmm. You play the ref like it's part of the field, mm-hmm. right? Well, I guess that's fine if the ref gets in your way. But if the ref doesn't like you or the ref had a bad day,
it's taking it out on you.
Yeah. And I've had that happen as an athlete. I'm sure you have too. It's, you run crosswise. No, look, they're amateur refs, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
So I want to see the consistency as well. That to me is taking advantage of data and tech. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
If you saw Moneyball, the movie, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Right? Well, it was in favor. Now it's gone out of favor. Some teams, I think, still use it, whatever. But data is always going to be a great way to help you measure. But anytime you have human interactions that are random, like sports,
mm-hmm.
you have to supplement that with something that can help you with experience interpret the situation.
Right.
How do you and I get experience? Look, we're going to go out and play football, right?
You got to do it.
Catch and run, right?
You got to do it. It's the only way.
How do you give an AI human experience?
Now, I think I have an answer to this, and obviously, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the way you would do that is by obviously you have to feed that information into the AI first. But if we're talking visually, it would have to recognize the eye test. It would have to recognize what it's watching as you feed in the information of, hey, this is what you're watching. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my estimate.
No, you're getting it.
Okay. Hey.
So the thing about AI, and I wanted to segregate by saying, data is not AI; it's just data. And data interpretation, you and I can do it as easily as an AI can do it.
Right.
The AI's job in our discussion is to do things independently and ultimately do things without us having to help it. The greatest example of this, and this scares me, but I think it was NVIDIA. They told an AI to teach itself how to drive a car by watching videos on YouTube.
And it happened.
It happened, and they don't know how it did it.
See, that's the aspect of I thought about this too, and I was gonna bring it in, and we're running out of time, so I can't. But I thought of it too, because this is a whole nother episode, Scott. I'm just had to bring you back on at some point. But the uncontrolled, being able to lose control, that's the whole fictional character, right? That's the movie. The big seller is iRobot. That was a very popular movie. You developing these systems and you lose control of them. Now they got a mind of their own. They take over the world. That's, and it's obviously it's fictional, but the reality is becoming more and more, or is becoming more and more closer to being an actual reality in a weird sense. It's crazy. It's crazy, man.
And I'm glad you said that, because look, I'm not suggesting, and I know you're not suggesting, that Skynet is just around the corner. Terminators will be walking the earth.
Yeah, it's not that close.
If you can't tell me how your system learned how to drive a car, you need to take the damn thing apart and figure it out.
That's facts.
Because if you don't know how it learned to do that, how can you tell me that it won't learn to do something that is silly or dangerous or whatever? And that's a part of it. That how do you get there from sports? Well, at what point, or could there be a point where AI is negatively affecting sports? I don't know, maybe. Just because we can do something doesn't mean we should.
I agree.
And we should talk about stuff before we just blindly start implementing it. So you're not wrong to have the thought in your head. You're just not.
Yeah, that's insane. And I man, that's crazy. But man, Scott, we're running out of time. I want to keep it. Like I said, I'm gonna just have to bring you back on, man. Because
I love it. I love it. This is fun.
Yeah, and we could just got to touch more on the other conversations that we want to touch on. But man, until then, it looks like we do got to wrap up. We're running out of time. Any last things? Where can the people find you? Where can they get more information? Where can they follow you?
Well, thank you. So you can come to my LinkedIn page, which is just Scott Sereboff. You can go to us-deepingsource.io. We have a YouTube as well. We have a blog site called Perspectives on LinkedIn. We do various things, but the easiest way is probably just us-deepingsource, which is right there, deepingsource.io. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Well, I appreciate you having me on, man. It was definitely cool to hear this insight and hear this side of the technologies that's coming into the new world. So I definitely can't wait to get this out, man. But hey, in the meantime, I greatly appreciate everyone who is there listening, whether you're listening to me on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iPodcast, wherever you get your podcast, therunusa.com. Man, I appreciate it. Share it with a cousin, a brother, an aunt, an uncle, a neighbor, coworker, whoever you're close to. But until then, we will be back later on next week, and so on and so on and so on.